Hey everyone, welcome to the Immortality Podcast. I'm your host Jake. I'm here with Josh. Today we have a very nice high mountain oolong, Fu Shou Shan.
What is the history behind Fu Shou Shan? Because what I tell everybody is that the Taiwanese elite love to drink this tea.
So what's distinct about Fu Shou Shan is the elevation. You want to smell it? It grows at 8,530 feet, which is very, very high for tea. Very, very, very high elevation, higher than, obviously higher than Boulder, where we are right now. Now, what that does is one thing is it creates a smaller yield, right? You can, on like lower elevations, you can really pack the tea plants into like these terraced gardens and just grow a ton of like kind of commodity grade tea. I'm just rinsing here. Now at higher elevations, it doesn't exactly work like that. You're only getting a few good bushes. However, the tea plant has to work a lot harder at that elevation too. So what that means is it has to produce more chlorophyll in order to make up for like the lack of direct sunlight on those like misty peaks. It has to be hardier to deal with the cold nights. It has to draw more nutrients from the soil in order to survive. So what that does is it really works the tea. And hopefully what we'll see in the cup is a more rich and complex brew as opposed to like a lower elevation commodity grade terraced farm tea. So the first steeping's still very light, right? As you can see, it's like barely opened up at all. There's just a little bit of opening in the tea balls.
With this one, what will the starting steeping times be, and then where will we progress with the steeping times?
So one of these, you're probably not going to get quite as many steeps as from a pour. But we'll probably go to like 5, 6, or 7 steeps. We'll just see how it goes. I'm started with a pretty quick steep. We'll do a couple kind of faster ones as it's opening up, and then once more of the flavors have come off and come out, we'll start doing some longer steeps when it's really open. Of course, the Taiwan convention of ball rolling oolongs is deeply related to the gongfu style of brewing. So what the ball rolling does is protects the leaves as it's being brewed. So the leaf isn't getting brewed all at once. The flavors aren't getting muddled. And we can hopefully experience some of the nuances that's coming out. Right now, this is pretty subtle. However, it is very sweet already. Already some very like bright, lilac-y floral notes. What do you think? What do you think, Josh?
Just the texture. Mm-hmm. That like even though it was so light, there was already a changed like thickness in the water.
Yeah.
Which this is one of my favorite high mountain oolongs to drink, along with the Longfeng Xia. Mm-hmm. I hope I pronounced that correctly.
I would say Longfeng Xia, but I'm not really a Taiwanese speaker myself, so.
Longfeng Xia.
Xia.
Or Longfeng. Yeah. Longfeng Xia.
Yeah, and that would be another mountain in Taiwan. Taiwan has like several distinct tea growing regions. The high mountain ones tend to be more in the center of the country. Of course, it's a relatively small island, so the higher mountains are deeper in. Most of the famous ones, this one and Longfeng Xia come from deeper in the country.
It's definitely getting darker on this second steep.
Yeah. So this is the kind of tea that's going to get like a little richer as we go. Already, it's a fuller flavor. I think there's, I don't know, maybe more fruit in this steeping than the last one. Maybe something like melon or pineapple.
Yeah, melony, and it's got that pineapple. I don't know that. Yeah. It's just.
I don't think that was in the last steeping. I think the last steeping was more just like kind of bright, sweet, and floral.
Yeah, I'm glad you said pineapple. I always think plantains.
Sure. Yeah, plantains, yeah. So this one, I don't know. This one's just remarkable to me for how rich it is. There's just a lot going on. It's a very elevated tea. You can really like taste the artisanal quality in this. A couple episodes back, we drank, a oolong from Darjeeling, which, while very good, was not, really on the same level of like refinement in terms of technique. This one is like just a very pretty, well-rounded tea.
And this is the third steep, right?
This is the third steep we're on, yeah. Yeah, for anyone who doesn't really know anything about Taiwanese oolongs in general, of course, tea is native to China, right? So Taiwan's tea industry started with tea being brought over, Chinese cultivars being brought over from China to Taiwan. But then from there, Taiwan really developed its own style of tea making, its own flavor profiles, and its own very distinct tea making techniques. Today, a Taiwanese oolong tastes very different than most Chinese oolongs in the same style. I find that Taiwanese oolongs, as opposed to Chinese, tend to be a lot more round, buttery, full, whereas Chinese greener ball-rolled oolongs seem to have sharper and more floral flavors. What do you think about this, Stoop?
It just keeps getting nicer.
Sure.
It's more melony this
Yeah.
time. It doesn't seem as pineapple-y as much.
Yeah. Yeah, there's butter, there's grass, there's melon, there's lilacs. This is just a very big, flavor-forward tea, but that also has a very solid body and backbone to it.
Oh, yeah, this one's evening out.
Yeah.
It's like Big Melon.
Yeah, so I often find that the fourth steep is kind of the the plateau, or like the crescendo. Like everything is like starting to open up. The leaves are, getting to like almost all the way up, and like see, that was like a ball at the beginning. Yeah, the flavors are out. They're all forward, front and center. Just really nice, sweet, fruity, floral, complex, like tea experience.
Can you talk a little bit about how Trident Cafe and Teas really tries to source some of the highest grade teas for tea drinkers
Sure.
and tea lovers and tea nerds?
Sure. So I think most cafes and even tea shops use maybe one or two at most different wholesalers for tea, some like the larger importers. We don't really use one distributor for tea. Instead, we actually go out of our way to make connections with smaller importers, like specialty importers and tea farmers whenever possible. Like, one thing, we pay a little less than we probably would, but of course it's a lot more work. Second of all, we actually have connections to the sources that the teas come from, so we can provide feedback to the farmers, feedback to the importers. They learn what we like. We learn like what they're trying to do. It's a lot of work cupping and sampling lots from farms and importers. We probably have to, for every one tea that we end up carrying, we probably have to taste a dozen or more. You have to know, what's making a tea good, what's making a tea bad. In this case, this tea is really elevated by its growing conditions and the pure artisanal quality that goes into making it. Of course, this tea is not cheap. It's one of the more expensive ones that we carry. But it's fairly rare to encounter tea of this quality. I don't really know what to say besides we just value good tea.
How much does this one sell for on the website compared to an average High Mountain Oolong?
It's not too much more expensive. I think per ounce I'm selling this for $12.50, which most teas are $2 to $5 a little less per ounce than that. One thing that's nice about tea is, as far as fancy specialty items, it's one of the less expensive ones habits you can have. A good bottle of wine might be like $20 or $30 and you get like 1 or 2 nights with it, but if you spent $20 or $30 on good tea, you have 20 or 30 good sessions with it.
And I've seen Fu Shou Shan sell for more than $12 an ounce.
Sure. Yeah. We don't mark up as much as we probably could. It's less about, for us, it's less about making a profit and more about sharing tea that we enjoy and making it accessible to people. We try to, of course, emphasize pure tea, real tea without like added scents, flavors. No fruity blacks, mango greens.
I appreciate that because it means all the flavors are directly from the tea plant.
Sure, and it's you wouldn't, if this was like a flavored tea or whatever, you would not be tasting anything 5 steepings in, whereas this is still all like fresh fruit and flowers.
Well, and I feel like that just speaks to kind of the weird evolution of tea, whereas a lot of these natural flavors originally came from the processing and from the different growing methods. And then what's happened today is they've just kind of taken that idea of some of these floral notes and some of these jasmine undertones that really came from jasmine flowers in the actual tea and the process. And they've let's just add the flavoring version.
Sure,
of
let's
it.
just add it in artificially, yeah.
And so I think that's kind of, the purpose of the podcast too, is just to help educate people about just what good tea is.
Yeah.
What steeping is this? 5th? 6th?
6th, yeah.
The leaves are still going. They're unfurling.
Yeah. I might have packed that one pretty tight, but you can see, big whole leaves, well picked. Not really any damage on the leaves. Sometimes in like lower grade or mid grade oolongs, you'll see a little bit of breakage around the edges. I'm not really, this is all just looks like nice green tea leaves to me. Like you can see, like just on the edge, there's a little bit of brown. That's from the oxidation, just the very light amount of oxidation that it's given. Very, very few tears. Whole leaves, nice and green, no char, no burn. Of course, tea like this takes a lot of effort to produce. And if it's not being sold to someone who appreciates it, then I suppose the effort's wasted anyway.
Yeah, I mean, people who, if you're used to drinking tea out of a tea bag and you didn't know that tea actually came from a real leaf, then I think you probably wouldn't appreciate this tea. But I think as you drink tea for longer and longer, you actually start to appreciate this tea because it's way less processed. It's got no pesticides. It's got no extra chemicals because these teas have been grown for generation after generations.
Yeah. And it makes you feel good too.
Oh yeah, this is the original energy drink, or in some ways, the original kind of life tonic. It's beautiful, actually.
In the first recorded mentionings of tea, it was classified as a medicine. So its earliest written mentions are in Chinese medicinal texts. I'm not going to sit here and say that tea cures all diseases, but it is generally supportive to health. There's a lot of good things going on in it. Polyphenols, GABA, theanine, minerals. In colder regions like Tibet and Mongolia, tea was used as a dietary supplement because there was so little access to like vegetables there. So, people would have like butter and meat, but they would have to use tea for their vegetable source.
That makes sense because this steeping process is kind of like extracting all the minerals,
Yeah.
vitamins, and nutrition.
Well, it's basically just, it's soup, right? Tea is soup. Or soup is tea, I don't know.
It's the original leaf soup.
It is, yeah. So I think we're 6 now, I guess.
Yeah.
Blasted that one pretty hard.
So this one you could steep for longer than 6, it seems like.
It seems like it's dropping off maybe a little right now. I think it's becoming a little more just vegetal. It's still pretty damn sweet, though.
So for tea drinkers, who would you suggest this tea is a good fit for, and where do they find it?
So this is definitely a connoisseur level tea. It's more expensive. I think the price, like you said, we're selling it for is very, very reasonable. Just $12.50 an ounce. But it's definitely for someone who appreciates oolongs, has had a few good oolongs at least, and is going to appreciate the nuances, the complexity, and the strength of this one in particular. Of course, this one and all our others you can find online at tridentcafe.com/tea, or you can visit us in the store. Talk to me, I'm Jake, or Peter Jones. We'll hook it up for you. All right, everyone, thank you for joining us. I hope you enjoyed the episode. Yeah, see you next time.